Hey, welcome back. This is Dino. This mini lecture is titled Big Brother Goes Little, The Endless Erosion of Privacy. And here below the title, you see a whole lot of book covers for George Orwell's classic 1984. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Um, the context for that is based on an article like a reading by Walter Kirn titled "Little Brother is Watching," and then maybe some things to think about when reading this reading is who is and strangely what is Big Brother. Personally, what do you actually worry about Big Brother in your life? And how about Little Brother, which we'll talk about? You might not know that term. It's a take on Big Brother, as you probably imagine. And then after that, have you had a Big Brother or Little Brother experience, especially online, especially through social media? Little Brother is Watching is the article, and it talks a little bit, it references the idea of Big Brother. And where does that term Big Brother come from? It's from the George Orwell's iconic novel 1984, written back in 1949, just um, slightly after the Second World War. And who is Big Brother? Because I have who is and what is. Who He's a totalitarian leader of the book's fictional state, so he's a character within George Orwell's 1984. But more broadly, he's become a symbol over time for the intrusive and controlling government in terms of them getting in your business and in your life. Within the contents of the book, the populace, um, mostly personified by Winston Smith, uh, they're watched and constantly controlled by Big Brother, and they're reminded frequently throughout the book that Big Brother is watching you. Dun dun dun. It's a frightening photo and image and a frightening looking fellow there. If you have the chance, there's a clip here from a 1954 BBC TV television movie. It's like a rendition of 1984. You can watch a little clip down there. And for those of you who are original Star Wars fans, Winston Smith is played by um, Peter Cushing, who was in the original Star Wars. I'll read a couple quotes from Kern's article. Uh, Quote, "It isn't some stern and monolithic Big Brother that we have to reckon with as we go about our daily lives. It's a vast cohort of prankish little brothers." And what he kind of means by that is that maybe we're not so worried in the day-to-day basis about the government poking around on the internet, especially through social media, messing around with their lives. It's more the idea of our friends, relatives, acquaintances poking around online and doing, maybe revealing things about our lives that we don't want to know, playing pranks on us, maybe making fun of us in ways that you don't have to really worry about the government, Big Brother doing so. Just as a sort of a quick survey of you, what percentage of internet users say they worry about how much information is available online about them? Any quick guesses? I'll show this in a second. It's by Pew Research Institute. It is about 33%. And remember, this is in 2010, so I'm sure it's much, much higher today. A couple more quotes. It's a beautiful article. I hope you have the chance to read the Walter Kirn article. "Ours is a fragmentarian society, infinitely divided against itself and endlessly disrupted from within by much the same technologies that, in Orwell's somber novel, assured a dull and deadening stability." Um, so this is kind of again implies what I was talking about before. Um, in Orwell's book, there's this idea of a telescreen where Big Brother and the machinery of the state can look in on you, but it's like telescreens are fixed in a domicile, so you have it, you know where it is. If you really want to avoid it, you can kind of step away from this to the side. With social media, network computers, it's hard to not have your life at sometimes disrupted from um, by technology, by social media, by people again maybe snooping around, lurking online, or maybe messing around with your social media feed. Another quote, with nowhere to hide, you might as well perform, dispensing with old-fashioned notions of discretion and personal dignity. This refers, this was written after Tyler Clementi's tragic suicide. He was a student at Rutgers University who had come out of the closet, and his life, secret life, sorry, his like private life was exposed online. And it's the idea that Kirn is getting across is that, again, in a society with so many prankish little brothers around, if you can't really hide anymore, and if you can't hide, you might as well perform. And then what's the cost of that? Or maybe we're not as discreet as we once were. Our personal dignity of having private spaces seems to be eroding. A couple questions you might want to consider in a bigger sense. Can we hide online? Do we have to perform? Is there a cost to having to perform? In short, just for the three questions. First one, can we hide online? I wonder if you can anymore. Say in today's society, if you Google searched a person, say if you're an HR rep looking at someone as a prospective employee, and you couldn't find anything of them online, I think you'd be pretty shocked. Like if there's absolutely no trace of them. In some ways, if you have no online presence, you're just so out of the loop that you would be considered odd. So that's something to consider. Do we have to perform? Again, similarly, um, it seems like as part of modern society, you have to have some kind of online presence, no matter how small it is. And then from that, people seem to want to know about other people. So performing is almost having an online profile and populating it with information, which is in a sense kind of performance. And is there a cost to having to perform? Maybe if you're a shy person who's not really into public performance, not really into letting people know too much about yourself online, maybe you just like to have people know you offline. Like you go to lunch with them, maybe go to dinner, maybe go on a date, maybe just have regular friends. It seems like you just can't do just that these days. A final quote, the invasion of privacy, of others' privacy, but also our own, as we turn our lenses on ourselves and the quest for attention by any means has been democratized. Um, Again, with social media platforms, with webcams, with smartphones, we have technology in such a way that, again, it seems odd if there would be no photos of you online, if there were no posts of you, of anything about you online. It would be very strange. And it's almost like, because technology has become so democratized, because it's so relatively cheap, because an obscenely high percentage of the population of adults has a smartphone, we almost are invading our own privacies by having these devices because of the affordances they have. Lastly, a final question. Are you worried more about privacy invasion by the government, corporations, or your peers? We can all have our own different views. In a lot of ways, I'm least worried about the government. I'm much more worried about corporations, and probably even more so my peers. If I was going to have something weird happen online about me, it'd probably be someone who knows who I am, direct like a friend, just pulling a little prank, the prankish little brother. Corporations kind of stealthily behind the scenes get my information, but it's kind of unknown to me, except for the weird pop-ups that come up occasionally in all of our feeds. And then the government, I think, the government has some means to collect data. They certainly have a lot of information about us, but I just, on a daily basis, they're probably the least I'm worried about. That was Big Brother Goes Little, the endless erosion of privacy. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you again soon.